Recording in progress.
Morning, members and colleagues.
Morning, Chilega.
Morning. We're gonna start just now. I'm waiting for Chair to join. Thank you.
I see he is joined. Chilega's on the meeting.
Yes, he is Honorable Brian, but he's at the doctor. So, Chair.
Good morning, colleagues. A very good morning to honorable members. Very good morning to the leadership of the department. I'm not too sure if we form a quorum. Let me check. Honorable Winkler, good morning to you.
Good morning, Chair. How are you?
Hey, I'm at the doctor's. I just found a spare room here because it's your job.
Eish. Take it easy, Chair, and I hope you recover swiftly.
Yeah, no, we'll do. We'll do. Thanks, Honorable Winkler. Honorable Singh, good morning.
Morning. How are you? I think, well, I heard how you are, but I don't think you should torture yourself. Maybe we should appoint somebody else to chair while you attend to yourself and then join us when you can. That's my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Singh. Let's consider that because this meeting coincides with this man's appointment, but I really had to do what I had to do. Honorable Bryant, good morning to you.
Morning, Chair. I concur with my colleagues. It doesn't look like a very arduous agenda. We've only got a couple of items, so go get better. Wouldn't have a problem if you would like to nominate somebody else so we can put somebody else in place. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Honorable Bryant, also for that consideration. Check who else is here. Is Honorable Dlamini here?
Good morning, Chair. How are you?
Hey, kephila ntate waphila.
Man, ka mthathe, but na ke appointment fela. Mare ba right man.
No.
Ka bona o ka kgona ho tswela pele, but ke appointment fela.
Ke batla amfe letter e ya ditswa mmunye. Ekare batho ba re sebetsang le bona ke bone ba ntsamayang.
Ai pastor. Ya e jwalo vele etsagala. Mare o ka ba right.
Ke a leboga ntate. Honorable Weber, goeiemôre.
Good morning, Chair. I'm getting today. Enjoy your hospital bed.
Honorable Weber, I'm not in hospital. I'm in the doctor's rooms. Hospitals are for sick people.
I know. Okay, but get healthy in any case. Good morning, everyone.
Thank you very much, Honorable Weber. Is Honorable Nkunu here? Honorable Nkunu? Okay, she's not here.
She is here. She's in the meeting.
Sawubona, Honorable Nkunu. Okay, let's move to Honorable
Probably the
Mbati.
network.
Honorable Mbati.
She hasn't joined yet, Chair.
I got joined.
No. Oh, there's she calls.
She's calling you. Hlola James.
But Thixo waseGeorge Gogh.
Okay, I believe we have a necessary quorum.
Morning, Chair. Good morning, Chair.
Honorable Ganjo.
Morning, Chair. Good morning to everyone. I see that you have forgotten me. Morning.
Anaglibala mamchawe bendiseza kuwe kage.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine.
Uske wadziwa ndombi.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, colleagues, I must inform you that I'm at the doctor's just for a checkup, and unfortunately it coincides with that time of the meeting. But Honorable Singh and Honorable Bryant suggest that we can nominate somebody else to proceed. But I will still be in a meeting, perhaps run the processes concurrently. But I thought it's important to let the leadership of the committee know of this condition. It's not really anything that can make a child fall from the bed. Let me greet the minister. Goeiemôre, Comrade Minister.
Goeiemôre, Chairperson. Sorry to hear that. Well, maybe it's a good thing that you're having a checkup. Greetings to other members in the committee.
Yeah, I think it is too. Good morning. Is the Deputy Minister here? Mema Soju Dumela.
There's an apology, Chair, from the Deputy Minister.
Okay. Are there other apologies from your side?
That's all, Chair, that I've received. Thank you.
Okay. Honorable members, any other apologies?
Yes, Chair. It's an apology from Oma Mongtunu. She is also at the doctor for the app. She sent a message.
Yeah, it's a checkup day today. Thank you, Honorable Kancho.
Chairperson.
Honorable Paulsen, good morning to you.
No, it's Singh, yeah. It's Singh, yeah. Mine is not check-up day, but check-in day. I'll have to leave for the airport at about 12 o'clock. Check-in. Thanks.
Yeah. When everybody checks up, you will have to check. You will have to check in at 12 o'clock. We know that, Honorable Singh. Thank you very much. Welcome to the meeting, honorable members of the Portfolio Committee on Forestry, Fisheries and Environment. Today is the 17th of October. We are scheduled to get a briefing from the Commission for Gender Equality. That's a report that relates to transformation in their private and public sector for the financial year under review. From there, as flighted, we will get a report. I think this is from the AG on the material irregularities on national, provincial, and local government. From there, we'll get the department to respond to what the AG has presented. I think it's last week in terms of their findings, their corrective actions, etc., etc. Welcome. Without further ado, can I request that we get a mover of the adoption of the agenda?
I move, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Singh. Honorable Singh.
Seconded by Kancho, Honorable Chair, I've raised my hand.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ngabisa Kancho from the Eastern Cape. Honorable members, that is how the meeting is going to be ran with this agenda that is adopted. I also want to take this opportunity to welcome the leadership of the department and all the people of South Africa who are here. The briefing I have is that the DG is back. We were told that she was coming back today on Tuesday. Welcome back, Ms. Chavalala Sawubona.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yebo, I am back. Ngiyabonga.
Wonderful. That's great news. You are not checking up or in or out.
No, it's not yet my check out day.
That's great. Welcome, DG. We also have the former acting DG, Ms. Musenege. We have the CFO, Ms. Jas. We have Ms. Benderman, the DDG for regulatory compliance. We have Ms. Mokhotlwa, DDG for Biodiversity and Conservation. We have Dr. Mkize, the DDG for Environmental Programs. We have Ms. Notata, the DDG for Forestry Management. We have Ms. Middleton, the DDG for Fisheries Management. We have Ms. Mashala, the DDG for Corporate Management Services. Dr. Figizolo is here, the DDG for Oceans and Coast. We have Mr. Maisela Gakana, the DDG for Climate Change and Air Quality Management. Mr. Baloi, the Chief Director for Chemicals and Waste. We have Mr. Moshweshwe, Acting COO for Waste Bureau. Mr. Ray Fontaine, the CFO for MLRF. With Mr. Gujwa, is the Chief Director for Risk Management and Ethics. We have Ms. Msindo Mkuna, Chief Director for Strategic Management and Business Performance. With Ms. Pamela Yako, she is the she's the chairperson of the board of SANParks. We have Ms. Mayatula Koza. She's a board member there at SANParks. We have Ms. Silo Hapilwe. She's the CEO of South African National Parks. We have Ms. Court, who is McCourt, the COO of SANParks. Ms. Makomu Umlo, the head of Human Capital. Mr. Zepe is from the head office. Ms. Maestri, Chief Director, Governance and Executive Support. Ms. Hani, head of the Office of the Deputy Minister. Ms. Kobela, the Director in the Office of the DG. Mr. Temba Gift Mguni, this is a regular here, the PLO in the in the Office of the Minister. And then we have Mr. Leontinis, who is the support structure in the Office of the Minister. He's also a regular. Ms. Ndibongo, who's a parliamentary strategic support also from the Office of the Minister. I am told that from the Auditor General delegation, we have Ms. Tabelo Musisnyan, who is the acting business unit leader. Mr. Rakosa, very relatively a regular, is a senior manager, together with Mr. Makula, who's a stakeholder and stakeholder liaison management. From Gender Equality, from Commission of Gender Equality, with the chairperson, Advocate Sipanya. We are told that he sent an apology this morning. I'm not too sure who's going to lead the delegation from Gender Equality. So colleagues, those are the people who are here. Other than that, this is an open meeting, it's a public meeting of the people of South Africa. Anybody can join to listen to the deliberations of the committee. Welcome, let's proceed without waste of time. May I invite the Commission for Gender Equality to give us a progress report on transformation in the public and the private sector for the financial year under review. I'm not too sure who is leading that delegation. Chileka, can you assist? Yes.
Unfortunately, Chair, there's no one presenting from the Commission.
What does that mean?
They requested another day. They said chairperson is not available and there's no other commissioner that can present to the committee.
So the commission has only one person?
They said all the other commissioners, Chair, are not available to present.
That's very strange. Did they give us a commitment on when do they come back?
They said, Chair, we should give them another date.
We're going to give them another date and they tell us they are not available. Honorable Singh?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. No, it's not only strange, but it's quite unacceptable because these meeting agendas are sent out in good time. And I think you must send them a strongly worded letter where they're showing disdain to our committee. But I suppose there's nothing we can do but just proceed with the next item on the agenda. Thank you.
We'll certainly do that, Honorable Singh. Honorable Bryant?
Yeah, I completely concur, Chair. I mean, it's totally unacceptable. I mean, as a portfolio committee, we are entitled to summon people to come and present, and at the last minute to say that they're not available and not give any reason. It's completely out of order. And I do hope that a very strong letter of expressing this position will go to them very soon. And if we can also try and establish what their reasons are for cancelling at the last minute. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Bryant. I give my commitment to the committee that by end of business this afternoon, they would have received this letter. Preferably that they must respond back and clarify what necessitated this late apology. Otherwise, we would not have put them in our agenda. Minister Barbara Creecy, I see your hand is up. Good morning to you.
Morning, Chair, and greetings to all committee members, yourself, and also all officials online once again. Chairperson, given the situation, perhaps it also presents an opportunity for the department and SANParks to prepare responses to the presentation, because we actually only received the presentation yesterday, and we were unsure what the committee requirements were going to be of ourselves. So if you are in agreement, Chairperson, we could also then prepare a response so that when the presentation is made, we could then also schedule that situation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Minister Creecy. Are you saying you need some time too?
Well, we've got it now, Chair. So when you decide you would want to schedule their presentation, I'm just suggesting you schedule a response from ourselves at the same time. That might be helpful to members of the committee. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we know that, Minister Creecy. Thanks very much. Can I check if the AG is here? The Auditor General of South Africa, are you here?
Good morning, Honorable Chair. Yes, we are on the call.
Wonderful, wonderful. You are the only people who are present together with the minister and honorable members of the committee. You are not checking up in or anything of that nature. I suspect you are ready. I can see with that smile. Can we then hand over to you to give us a report on the material irregularities of the local government, national government, and provincial government? I suspect you are accompanied by Jacob Rakosa, who's a regular in this committee. We must just give him a permanent seat in the committee. We would have loved to give Andres, but he checks in and out. So we don't want people who checks in and out here. Welcome. Please proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I'll start with your comment around checking in and checking out. Unfortunately, I have to also check in at the airport, but that's slightly later on. So I will not stay through the conversations with the when the department is presenting. We have another portfolio committee tomorrow in Cape Town, so I need to head that way. So that's just going to be me, but the rest of the colleagues will remain on the call. So that is my checking in, Honorable Chair. So with your permission, Chair, we will then proceed. Good morning once again, Honorable Chair and Honorable members on the call. Good morning, Honorable Minister, and the delegate from the DFFE and the rest of the entities within the environmental portfolio. As a way of formal introductions, my name is Tabelo Msisinyane, as already indicated by the chair. I am currently the acting business unit leader from a unit called National D in the national office that audits, amongst others, the environmental portfolio. The chair has already indicated that I'm with Jacob and Songezo, but Honorable Chair, I also have our two colleagues from our technical unit that will assist in some of the questions in case we do understand that sometimes the material irregularity presentation can be technical. So we then thought they should join us in case there's some questions they will support us with. If not, Jacob will then be doing the rest of the presentation. From my side, Honorable Chair, members, and the rest of the colleagues on the call, thank you so much for the opportunity to come and engage the committee. As indicated, there was Jacob and team were presenting last week. Unfortunately, I couldn't make that meeting because I had another portfolio committee meeting. And then Mr. Anders Sekheto came. Unfortunately, today he has another meeting, so he can't attend. And I do hear the chair saying that maybe because he's in and out, we won't give him a position. So for the purpose of today, I do note that, Honorable Chair, when you opened, you said the material irregularity for national, provincial, and local. So maybe a bit of background from our side. There is a report we released as the Office of the AGSA called the Material Irregularity Report, and that report contains all material irregularities that has been issued on national, provincial, and local. For the current year, that report, if I'm not mistaken, is scheduled to be tabled, I think, only end of November, beginning December, together with the general report. It usually then gets tabled by the Auditor General herself. So for the purpose of this meeting, Honorable Chair, we then thought we would rather come and engage the committee on the material irregularities impacting the environmental portfolio. So if the committee still wants to have an engagement on the national, provincial, and local, I think the committee will have to wait a bit when we table the current year one, and then the necessary colleagues who then have an overview of all material irregularities that we raised as an organization can then come back and engage the committee. I really hope the committee will find that in order and will accept that from our side. So be that as it may, we are going to continue with the presentation for today with the material irregularities for the environment. So one slide that we are going to include for today, we already included as part of the package that we presented last week. So we are just going to expand or get into details on some of those material irregularities. So the first few slides, with your permission, Honorable Chair, we won't cover because these are the slides that we presented to the committee last week. So we are asking, with your permission, Chair, to just delve directly into the material irregularities section. Is it okay, Honorable Chair?
Yes, Tabs, that's fine. I think
Okay,
we
cool.
agreed.
Okay, thank you. So just a bit of background of material irregularities. We do recall that we did have we will call it a mini workshop previously when we were then selecting a DFFE to also implement material irregularities. But I'll just do a basic high level and then hand over to Jacob to then take the committee the rest of the presentation. So where it really stemmed from is over the years, we were raising a number of findings as the office of the AGSA, and a lot of the findings were highlighting the mismanagement, the leakage of public funds, and because of the powers that we had at that point in time, all what we can do was to raise the recommendations, and then we'll then follow up on the recommendations from accounting officers to ensure that they then implemented them. So there was definitely a public outcry that there's a need for accountability, and there's a need for us as the office of the AGSA to really be empowered so that we are able to hold accounting officers accountable for any of these losses that we see. And based on that, there was then the expanded mandate that we also call the the material irregularity, or we also then call it the enforcement. And the purpose of this enforcement really is to say, as the office of the AGSA, we are able then we have powers to then directly or indirectly recover resources that are lost to the state, and also ensure that there is consequence management within government. So that's then what birthed what we call material irregularities. And maybe as also a reminder, the definition of a material irregularity means any non-compliance or contravention, fraud, theft, breach of fiduciary duties that we identify as we are discharging our duties as the auditors. And these non-compliance, contravention, fraud, theft, or breach of fiduciary duties has resulted or is likely to result in material financial loss, misuse or loss of material public resource, or substantial harm to the public sector, institution, or general public. So I think one thing that we always emphasize and remind when the colleagues, when we present the fact that the non-compliance, contravention, fraud, theft, or breach of fiduciary duties needs to have resulted into those parts that I have highlighted, because we do know that in certain instances, especially instances of irregular expenditure, there can be a non-compliance, but it might not necessarily result in a loss, and therefore that particular transaction will then not meet the definition of a material irregularity. So the overall aim of this mandate from our side is to instill a culture of accountability. As please go to the previous slide, Jacob. As indicated in my opening remarks, that there was an outcry that there is need to be a culture of accountability. We also wanted to see that there is an improvement in the protection of resources, an enhancement in public sector performance, and to also encourage an ethical culture, as well as to strengthen the public sector institution to better serve the people of South Africa. So if I can just highlight the way the process then works, Honorable Chair and members. So as the team is on the ground and auditing, and if they identify a transaction that when they then take it through the definition of a material irregularity, the process that then follow is the team will engage management on that specific transaction. And after that process of engaging and trying to understand the transaction, if we are satisfied that it then meets the definition of a material irregularity, we issue what we call a notification. And the purpose of a notification is to say to the accounting officer, we have identified this transaction, we have identified this specific scenario, and we believe that it meets the definition of a material irregularity. So the accounting officer then is given an opportunity to then respond to the notification that we have issued. And the current timelines that we have is the fact that the accounting officer has 20 days to then respond to that notification. And moving to this slide is, once we have issued that notification and the accounting officer responded, we then make an assessment on whether we believe the accounting officer is taking appropriate steps to deal with the material irregularity. So because for us on our side, the aim that we want to achieve is to ensure the fact that the accounting officer is investigating the matter, is holding accountable the person that actually caused the material irregularity. And if there was a loss, the accounting officer is taking steps to then recover any loss that might have suffered, as well as, which is important for us, is improving the internal control environment so that it prevents the material irregularity for occurring again. And for us, this is important because if we are going to stop any instance of material irregularity, it is important that the internal control environment itself, it's then enhanced or improved to prevent a recurrence in the future. So what we then do is when we get the response from the accounting officer and we assess, if we are in step 1 on the slides where we believe that the accounting officer is sufficiently dealing with the matter, what we do from our side, we then say to the accounting officer, we are satisfied with the process that you are following to deal with the matter. We will then follow up on the actions in the coming year or in the coming audit to ensure that the matter is not left idle but is being followed up. And what we then recommend to the executive authority is to monitor the progress and support the accounting officer as they are dealing with the material irregularity and improving controls. We then also recommend to the oversight bodies, which is also a committee like this, that they must monitor the progress and call the accounting officers to then come and account on actions they are taking. So the other step that I want to highlight in this slide, I will skip step 2, but I'll go to step 3. Step 3 then comes into effect in instances where we feel that the response from the accounting officer is not sufficient to address the material irregularity. We then take it what we call the next step. And in this step, it's when we then make an assessment and then include in the audit report specific recommendations. And at this instance, this is when we then stipulate in the audit report what the accounting officer needs to do to ensure that they address the material irregularity and also to improve the controls to prevent recurrence. So, and then there's also then on our side, after we've then included on the audit report, we also give a date of when this needs to be done. So the difference between step 1 and step 3 is the fact that with step 3, we then issue specific instructions to say this, or recommendations to say this needs to be done, and also give a stipulated timeline. And the recommendation that we also then give to the executive and also the oversight bodies is to ensure the fact that they monitor the progress and support the accounting officer, as well as then with the committee to request action plans or implementation. So I wanted to highlight these 2 steps because there might be impacting the material irregularities that Jacob will then be presenting, and we wanted the committee to have this in mind as then Jacob presents the material irregularity that we have currently identified and notified within the department in the environmental portfolio. I'm then going to hand over to Jacob to then take the committee the rest of the slides. Over to you, Jacob.
Thank you, Bull. Morning, Chair, morning members, Minister, Accounting Officer, and the colleagues. As we presented last week, the material irregularities, we just added more information just to speak to what we have already presented, and we have also included most of the information that was also sitting in our briefing notes. Basically, in the year 2022-2023, we have issued the department with 4 notifications on various types of material irregularities, 2 being under the EPIP program, and which is mostly infrastructure, and 1 being on the leasing of the waste tire management depot, and the other 1 being on the vehicles that were utilized by one of the implementing agents. So, and it's one of the service providers that the committee has called to come and account in the previous financial year. I believe somewhere in October, if not November last year. So, in us assessing, we on the actions taken by the auditee. We can maybe go down and talk about the responsible officials identified and disciplinary processes completed. There were about 5 that were identified. They were mostly on the lease payment for a a landfill site, a depot that has never been utilized to store tires, and there were 4 investigations that were instituted, which is of all 4 of them. And the department also stopped a contract with the supplier that utilized the one that they were utilizing their lease, their land for to utilize as a depot. And the internal controls as well. On 3 instances, the internal controls have also been implemented or enhanced to discourage going forward the issues that are related to financial losses. Our key observations is that, like we said, 5 officials and the accounting officer has also instituted investigations, and the lease contract has since been cancelled as well. The department enhanced controls by amending the employment, environmental protection and infrastructure program policy to discourage the payment of prepayments. Furthermore, the department has strengthened their controls under contract management as well. So we have recommendations that we've also shared on how the PC can assist in this regard. So going into a bit of details on the MIs that we have communicated, is that the one that has to do with the payment made to perform remedial work and vandalism of deliverables that were already completed. This is one. It's a landfill site at the Mvoti district where there was vandalism and there was no proper safeguarding of the landfill site whilst it was still under work in progress. That resulted in remedial work to be performed in order to complete the infrastructure project that is linked to the landfill site. The impact of it resulted in about 2.3 additional expenses that were incurred by the department. And the other issue when it comes to this specific one is that there was a variation order that didn't go in terms of what was required or didn't follow was not the approval for a variation was not at the appropriate level. So an investigation by the department has been instituted in this regard to determine if any official can be held liable for the financial loss. As at 31st July, the department had received the report and it was undergoing quality assurance, and the recommendations of the report will be implemented. So for us, we are, as the Auditor General going forward, we are going to have concluded that so far the department has taken appropriate actions, and then we will follow up on the progress and the actions of these actions and the implementation of the planned actions during the 2023-2024 financial year. So the other material irregularity that we have also raised was on the, like we said, payment made to waste disposal project deliverables not received. So in brief, the department had leased a site in the Port Elizabeth area, and this particular site didn't comply with the bylaws or could not be utilized as a landfill, as a waste disposal where they can store tires that are waste, the tire waste that could be stored in those specific in that specific land. So because there was non-compliance with the bylaws, and Port Elizabeth, the municipality itself has never authorized the land to be used as a depot. So resulting in payments of leasing that specific land, that there was no value for the department. It wasn't used to fulfill that particular mandate, which had to do with the storing of tires and processing the tires. So in that regard, the department in May of 2022 has since cancelled the contract, and from our understanding, they are also pursuing to recover money from the service provider. So, but the impact as well that has been felt is that the department has changed how they are contracting with the various suppliers in terms of land to ensure that prior to approving the contract, there must be an indication in a form of proof that that particular land can be used as a waste hire. So it has resulted in how the department contracts, and also it will also better improve the contract management that will be followed by the department. We will also follow up on the recovery, and we'll also follow up on similar contracts in terms of always keep checking if indeed all the contractors that have been that the department has contracted in terms of leasing land, that they are complying with the bylaws. So the third neutral irregularity that we're sharing is also it's the other one that we are sharing is has to do with the infrastructure project, where the department had incurred quite a bit of money for paying for deliverables that were never really received by the department. The department did not receive any benefit for the expenses that they incurred. And most of the infrastructure projects, really, the reason why this was promoted was as a result of the prepayments, like we've mentioned. So resulting in money being advanced to a particular service provider, and also project management really not tracking indeed the deliverables as reported by the service provider, that indeed they are aligned to what they can see on the ground, resulting in payments that you couldn't validate that service were provided. So the amount to this was an amount of 8.2 million that we could track, and it was about 2 deliverables that the service provider did not complete in that regard. So the department has since issued someone to that specific supplier with the intention of recovering. So they have also taken the issue through reviews in terms of investigations, and we are still awaiting the recommendations from the report, and then we'll follow up on those recommendations to see if they are implemented going forward. The last one is on the vehicles where the department has bought certain vehicles that are being utilized by one of their service providers within their fire management space. So in that regard, about 42 cars were disposed without approval from the department, and also not following the treasury instructions. I mean, there's treasury regulations in terms of how do you dispose state-owned assets, and there was no complete follow-up in that. And also how the vehicles were disposed and how the contract was written on to talk to the disposals is not really aligned to the treasury regulations as well. So it resulted in 42 vehicles being disposed, and that we estimated the value of 1.8 million. In the current year, 6 additional cars were also disposed using the scheme that was followed by the particular supplier. And in both instances, the supplier did not get permission from the department to do so. So in that regard, the department has since has done a need analysis to ensure that the transfer of assets can take place as per the transfer management plan to avoid further unauthorized disposal and is also being finalized. The matter has also been taken to the state attorney, has been referred to council by the department, which is still under progress. So we, in our assessment of this particular material irregularities, we were not so satisfied with the department not identifying the responsible officials within the department to be held accountable for this. So therefore, we are referring the matter to our MI committee for further processing. I think these are all the four. This is all 4 of the material irregularities that have been shared with the department, and Yeah, so I think I will end here, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, AG or Mr. Jacobs. Honorable members, the chairperson has just sent a message that he requests that I continue with chairing the meeting. If it is okay with you, may I do so?
Yes.
Honorable Gancho, just for formality, I'll nominate you as chairperson and get a seconder.
Thank you, Honorable Bryant. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I second.
Honorable Mbata.
Thank you, Honorable Mbata, and welcome. Honorable members, there's a presentation by AGSA. Can I see hands? Honorable Singh, followed by Honorable Paulson. In that order. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Acting Chairperson, and thank you to the Office of the AG for this very comprehensive report. And you know, I sit on other committees where we deal with MI and things like that, and I think it's a very good step that we are able to, within our environment, Department of Environment, be looking at issues like this rather than just delivery. I mean, for most of them, there are plausible explanations of what's going to be done, but I'm deeply concerned about the one that's within the fire management space and the sale of the vehicles, because you know what I know today, the department says nobody can be held responsible, and I would really like to hear the department on that particular issue, because you know it was public servants that did it, or somebody that was allocated that responsibility for fire management, and we cannot just say, you know, nobody can be held responsible. So I'd just like a response on that matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Singh. Honorable Paulson, followed by Honorable Bryant.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you very much for the presentation. If the Auditor General could just give us an indication, if one compares the material irregularities this year, how many of them are repeat from previous years, and how was it dealt with in previous years, and how will it be dealt with this year? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Bryant.
Thanks, Chair. I'm covered by Honorable Singh when it comes to the fire trucks. But I just want to find out how many of these cases have been referred for criminal action. I might have missed that in the presentation. If I did, I'm sorry. But how many of these have been referred to the SAPS for further investigation?
Thank you, Honorable Bryant. I don't see any hands. AG, can you respond?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I think the members can assist. I think the two questions I think are being directed to the department, and I think the department can respond to that. But I wanted to sort of give Jacob also an opportunity to talk about the material irregularities in the current year versus the prior year. So currently, if we look at please, Jacob, please just flight the screen with the dates. So the material irregularities that we have raised in the current year are the ones that we have presented today. We don't have any material irregularities that we had raised in the prior year. And I think Jacob would just help me on the date we actually implemented the MI process at the department. So these are all the material irregularities we have raised at the department. But covering the number, I think one thing that we always highlight from our side is the fact that because we work on a sample basis, the audit is such that we work on a sample basis. When we do identify immaterial irregularities, irregularity in an area, what we always recommend for us is to say there is possibly a reason that, there's a risk that this might be in other areas as well, in specifically in the same type of contract. And hence, we always recommend that the control environment itself needs to be improved. I think one thing that we have highlighted is the fact that when we look at some of these matters that we raised in that one transaction that we have identified, management has gone back and tried to improve the whole internal control environment so that they deal with the other transactions that we may not have picked up or that were not part of our sample that could possibly have some likely loss. So I think that I wanted to cover from a number perspective, just to say we deal with a sample, and sample usually is an indication that there's possibly other things that's happening, and hence it's important that the department then improves the control environment so that even the others that we were not able to identify, they then address them swiftly based on the process. Jacob, I don't know if you want to add anything on the matter.
I think, thank you, Paul. I think another thing to note is that last year was the first year of implementing the MIs in the portfolio, specifically for DFFE. So if you look at the dates, you'll note that most of these were raised in the 2023 financial year. So there's only 4 so far material irregularities that have been issued within the environmental portfolio space, that including the department and its entities. So the other thing to note is, like we've just said, is that we were quite happy with the actions of management when it came to discouraging the going forward of this particular material irregularities, and we could also trace their action to the financial statement when it comes to issues of the prepayments, as well to the infrastructure project, because that was the biggest issue when it comes to the material irregularities and financial losses when it comes to the construction of infrastructure. So also for the Waste Bureau, which mostly has was dealing with the list of waste tires, because now they are within the space of various municipalities with different bylaws and so forth. So where we were able, together with the department, to say the best approach is to make sure that we don't contract, then try and get approval to use a certain space as a waste depot. So whenever there's a particular need to have a waste depot in a particular place and there's a bidding process, if they include a clause to say submit additional information to prove that we will be able to utilize that space as a waste depot. So these particular MIs in that particular space, we, for now, based on the nature of what resulted in the financial loss, we were quite comfortable to say the department has taken action. Now, the most important action is the consequence management leg of it, where after the reports have been concluded and there's a need to implement the recommendations, and then we see that happening. So it will be covering that space. So the other one on the vehicles, really, it was quite unfortunate that the contracts were written to not discourage the disposals of the vehicles in accordance to the Treasury regulations. And then the department, part of it is because they are still in the name of the supplier, meaning even if they have an agreement, it will still result in them, when without approval, disposing the vehicle. So that's one that we feel like the department can still close that loophole to discourage such actions from happening. Thanks.
Thank you, AG. Colleagues, are there any follow-up questions? I note that the question by Honorable Bryant was not responded to. I'm not sure whether it is the one that was referred to the department by UAG, the one of criminal cases opened to subs or something.
Yes. Through you, Chair. So from our side, there have been recommendations made, but from our knowledge, there is none that has been referred to SAPS out of the 4 MIs that we've issued out. So yeah, for further investigation, that has not happened. I believe because they've referred them to legal counsel, maybe they will get that advice from legal counsel as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, HG. Honorable Brian, I see your hand.
Thanks, Chair. Just to clarify, I mean, some of these issues, as you said, you've known about since last year, that they have recommendations have been made, and some of them for investigation, but this hasn't taken place. So I'm just trying to establish now what were the recommendations, which ones were recommended for investigation, and maybe someone from the department can advise as to whether those have now been referred to SAPS, or if not, why they haven't been referred for further investigation.
AG, can you respond?
Okay, thank you, Chair. I think the department will respond on the other side or on further action. So all four of the MIs that we currently are having went through the investigation process. So we've issued the notifications mostly in December and some one I think in April. So in all instances, the first three that we had issued, some didn't go through the investigations, and in our response back to the department, we indicated that we would prefer if they would have been investigated further, of which the department ultimately did that to get all of them being investigated, to the point that the one that has been completed on the list, that they have identified officials that can be held accountable. The two other ones, because the investigation started quite a bit late, if I'm not mistaken, the department will correct me, somewhere in April, if not May. As when we were closing our audit, that's when they were finalizing the reports that were provided by the investigators. But we were quite happy that they have already started with litigating. They have also investigated. Now we will follow up on what further steps are they going to take in terms of how they will either recover or hold certain individuals that are within the department accountable. And for the ones that they've identified and the officials are no longer within the department, that's when we don't have feedback that what actions has the department taken to I can hear what Honorable Bryant is talking about, particularly for the list one where the officials are no longer employed by the department. That maybe the department can respond on what further actions are they going to take in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Singh, I see your hand.
Yes, Chairperson. Yeah, I just wanted to know whether the department is going to respond on the issue of the vehicles. Thank you.
We are still going to the presentation by the department, Honorable Singh. I would then advise them to note the questions and then respond accordingly.
No, that's fine, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I do not see any hands. Is it a hand, Honorable Singh?
Sorry, Chair, I'll lower it.
Okay. I think we are done with AG's presentation. Honorable members, we are going to move now to the department to do their presentation or respond. Can I get someone who's going to lead us? Honorable Minister, are you still in the meeting? Do you perhaps want to say something before the DG presents?
Thank you very much, Acting Chair. I think that these matters fall squarely within the domain of the accounting officer, and I know that our DG has prepared a full presentation in response to all matters that have been raised both in today's session and also in the session that took place last week. So I want to suggest that we hand over to the Director General to take us through that presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. DG, over to you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning to honorable members. I am going to take the committee through our audit action plan, addressing the issues that have been raised by the Auditor General in relation to the audit that has just been concluded. And I will then go to the areas also in relation to the material irregularities, where as a department we have had to take action in terms of investigations and also issues of recovery. I am then going to provide feedback and respond to some of the concerns. I think the honorable members were interested around the vehicles and also any further action that would have been taken in some of the material irregularities. Chair, thank you very much. I will go straight to slide 4, and this is the outline of the presentation. We are going to table our audit action plan in relation to the financial statement issues, because those are issues that were raised by the Auditor General also in their report to the committee last week, and also on the performance information, what action plans we have and what measures we are taking to address issues, especially where we have not concluded dealing with the matters in relation to the material irregularities. Last week, there was also an issue raised around enforcement capacity in the department, and I'm going to highlight that. The next slide, I think it would have been presented by the Auditor General, but just to highlight that as a department, there were areas of improvement that we've demonstrated in this audit. And there are certain areas that still remain as a challenge. And the audit action plan is then a demonstration of our continuous implementation of controls in those areas that require improvement, and also to ensure that we do not get repeat findings in as far as these matters are concerned. But as a department, we believe we are on the right track, yet we are not yet there. We have a lot of work, given that there's a lot of legacy issues that would have caused the department to be qualified and disclaimed for the past 6 to 7 years. And we have to deal with those issues moving forward. In the next slide, just going into the financial statements and linking to the presentation that was made last week by the Auditor General, there were issues raised around asset management, and basically around the finding of the Auditor General is the manner in which the policy that we've implemented on disposal of assets was implemented, and mainly in relation to the computer equipment, whereby the policy that existed for the department indicated that once the computers reach a disposal stage, the option of selling it to officials can also be explored. And this was an area that the AG raised as a concern. And as a result of that, what we have done is we have then looked into our policy. We are in a process now, we've revised our policy. We're in a process of engaging with organized labor, given that it affects staff. so that they are aware when then we implement a new policy on disposal of computers, they are aware, and it's an area that would have been consulted on thoroughly. So we are in the process of then consulting on that. And as soon as we then finalize consultation and approval is granted, we are then going to then implement that policy. In a nutshell, the policy is going to be aligned to Treasury regulations, but also we have looked at other disposal methodologies that could be explored. And firstly, looking into donation. And donation is donation to public schools, especially your Section 20 schools, where it's no fee school. And if then there's no take up in as far as that is concerned, we then would have to look at other disposal methodologies following that. So that's what is entailed in the draft policy that is still under discussion. So that's the way in which we are then addressing this finding by the Auditor General. The second one also is on contingent liability. And basically here with the finding of the Auditor General was that our register for contingent liability, so it's cases where there's litigation and so on and so forth, our register and that of the external counsel, that's mainly from the state attorney, was not reconciling properly. What we have done is that we now having regular reconciliations that are conducted between the department and the Office of the State Attorney, and obviously with the external counsels that are assisting us in the various litigation matters, so that at any given point in time, and also coming to the disclosure in our financial statements, we are then able to disclose a reconciled amount with that of the state attorney as part of our register that we have in place. The third one is around on consequence management, and on consequence management, there's a lot that has actually happened, and the issue here was around ensuring that the cases that we have, as the department, we have legacy contracts which we are investigating. And those legacy contracts, we had only investigated about just slightly over 50%. And I am going to then go into also the details in terms of how then we will have to fast track that. But basically, we have a total amount of almost over 300 to 400 cases from legacy contracts which require investigation. And we do have a body shop, Honorable Chair and Honorable members, where we have solicited external investigators. I think we've got about 5 service providers, but the pace is not is not necessarily at the right level. Whereby each service provider, you'll find that at most they investigate close to about 6 cases in a year, because it takes them long to investigate. But we are looking into how best then we can fast track that area. The other aspect in relation to consequence management, where we have identified that the major contributor to irregular expenditure was as a result of our specification, not that were none, or which did not address objectivity criteria, whereby when you advertise a contract, you need to be very clear in line with Treasury prescripts that this is the way in which we are going to evaluate service providers. And that was not necessarily highlighted in the advert, even though there would have been specification internally, which then your BEC members and BAC would have utilized, that then would have resulted in irregular. And in those instances, value was derived from those contracts, and we have then implemented corrective measures in ensuring that we continuously train the members of BEC and also BAC, given that the BEC members are not the same for each and every project. So you have to continuously train all those that will participate in BEC. The other one was around the broad-based Black empowerment, where the finding was that we have not filed and submitted within 30 days an annual report to the Commission. We then, as a department, would have then solicited assistance and services of a service provider to then do the verification. The reports were there, but they were not necessarily submitted to the Commission. So the service provider assisted us with the verification of all the information, but also to look into areas that we need to be improving as part of implementation of the BBBE policy. And that has since been submitted to the Commission. And I think in our presentation, we are reflecting that we made a commitment to the Auditor General that by the end of the second quarter, we would have done all these assessments and ensure that compliance is in order. And we have submitted by the end of September. The next slide then talks to, on the financial side, the audit action plan, which we have put in place and we're in the process of implementing. We also are ensuring that all risk areas that have been identified in this audit are then taken care of in terms of our risk audit register, and then we implement a mitigation plan so that when then the conclusion of the current financial year, we do not find ourselves with repeat findings of those areas that have been identified as a risk, and also implementing all the rest of the other recommendations that the Auditor General had made. We do monitor this, mainly at the forefront of this is the CFO of the department, working very closely with the various branches, especially the branches that are impacted on with the findings that we have in the audit. What is critical, Chairperson and honorable members, is that whatever monitoring and also progress that we report, we now make sure that there's sufficient evidence that is then filed for then ease of auditing at the end of the financial year. The next slide, Chair, I think it was just a progress around expenditure, and I think I would not want to go into this slide because we do present to the committee around our progress in as far as this is concerned, but it also then relates to compliance in terms of ensuring that we also put together interim financial statements, and these interim financial statements must then be also submitted to National Treasury within stipulated timeframes, of which for the second quarter we are planning that it will be submitted to National Treasury as expected by the end of October. In the next slide, I'm going into the details. This department, I think the qualification over the past years has been around the issue of irregular expenditure. Firstly, around department not being able to quantify and accurately disclose. We have managed to deal with that hurdle. We have gone as way back as when the contracts originated, and we have a register of all the irregular expenditure, which we are also subjecting to investigation. And as I indicated, it's quite a number of cases, which then the determination committee, which I have established in line with the irregular expenditure guide from National Treasury, deals with each and every case, and where then there are losses, evidence of losses, it's then referred to investigation. It's not all cases that are investigated. It's only those where there are evident losses, where we then take a further step and refer to our external service providers in as far as investigation is concerned. So the total is 6.1 billion. And as indicated in that note, I will come back to it before the table. Already condonement has been done for 2.8 billion. We then having an accumulated, we have an accumulated balance of 3.5, which we are tirelessly working towards ensuring that we deal with these matters as much as possible to clean out the history and in the future ensure that our controls are in place. So this 3.5, as already I had indicated, emanates from those contracts which were non-compliant, and also non-compliant due to the evaluation criteria that was subjective, which I've highlighted, that you need to be very clear with your criteria of evaluation when you advertise your tender. It's not only just for the department to be in full view of that criteria. We also need to make that public so that then those that are submitting bids, they are aware of the criteria they'll be subjected to, and it gives them a fair opportunity to then respond to those bids accordingly. The next one slide, still on irregular, which is being processed by the determination committee, is talking to the 550 million that the AG we had disclosed in this year's statements, financial statements, which is the financial statements of 22-23. And basically what we have done here, we've also indicated those contracts, which year were those contracts emanating from. So there's about 120 of those contracts still of the old contracts. And then we have 2 contracts emanated from 2020-21, and then also 3 contracts that emanated from 22-23. I would want to go into the details in terms of then the issues which had resulted in the irregular, especially of the 22-23. Here it was mainly around non-compliance of mandatory requirements in the terms of reference. National Treasury introduced the elements of local content, which must be stipulated in your terms of reference, and this was not stipulated upfront. And given that we had not fulfilled that particular requirement, it then rendered that contract irregular. The next slide, Chair and members, just give a sense, besides the irregular expenditure emanating from the history, we also had the fruitless and wasteful expenditure, and we've provided the breakdown in terms of the number of cases that are there, where you would find the first 2 cases where EPIP, which is an environmental infrastructure program, and NRM also, it is from environmental program. And majority of the irregular expenditure, if I may just refer to the previous slides, is that it comes from two main branches, Waste Bureau and EP. And in EP, it's as a result, and this is one of the areas or the causes that was highlighted by the Auditor General in the material irregularities, where there were prepayments. And I think we have highlighted here to the committee that those were the challenges that were there with these legacy contracts, where service providers were paid upfront before services were carried out. But we have since introduced different controls of ensuring that you carry out the service and then be paid based on the invoice that you present with an evidence that you have performed the work that you are actually billing the department for. So that's how then we have tried to deal with that matter. However, we still have the history whereby service providers would have been paid, and in certain instances, the service provider would not necessarily would have fulfilled the responsibilities. So that's the breakdown, and I'm just highlighting the two areas, which is environmental program and also Waste Bureau, because that's where majority of the problematic areas were emanating from in the past. We do have areas in relation to where there's traffic fines for our vehicles, and there we have internal processes, and we are taking action in terms of ensuring that we then recover from officials involved after you've done a clear investigation on some of those matters. In the next slide. And out of this, I think in this slide, I've indicated that it was 819,000 that was fruitless and wasteful, attributed to 22-23. The rest was emanating from previous contracts. So what we also want to highlight, Chairperson and honorable members, is that the Departmental Determination Committee, which we established way back, I think it was 2021, when we established, sits every Thursday to deal with these matters. We've got quite a number of cases, and we're trying our level best to ensure that we deal with this irregular and clean out the history. We have managed to condone the 2.8 after taking action, and some of the staff that were involved, and I think we have reported to the committee prior that there were staff action taken, some of the staff dismissed, and some of those staff would have had sanctions where then there will be have no pay for a recorded number of months, and some of them then had to have training to ensure that they continuously are updated on the prescripts that are required and which are coming through from National Treasury, and the policies are expecting us to adhere to. The department does acknowledge that the task at hand, with all these cases, we really need to try and ensure that we then fast track and clean out the history. And as already highlighted by the Auditor General, I think we have just done slightly over 50% in as far as addressing those matters, and we are continuously then dealing with the balance of those matters, including the service providers that we have in place to assist us. The next slide, I think here in slide 14, we are just highlighting what then our ethics and fraud management division is doing in as far as this fruitless. And basically here we are highlighting that there's cases that currently have been referred to forensic investigation. And some of those cases, we are highlighting here, 2 of them are at the final stages. And once we receive those, we then take appropriate action, refer them to labor relations where there has to be disciplinary, and also ensure that where then there has to be recovery, we refer them to legal, who then has to assist us with the recoupment of those amounts. The next slide, the next session then covers an audit action plan on performance information, which also has been highlighted in the report of the Auditor General. And this first finding is a finding that applies across. And as a department, we have prioritized this, and we have already implemented these measures, where I think it was mainly in the program 5, where there were indicators where performance could not necessarily be substantiated by verifiable evidence. So we have now a monthly monitoring process. We would have a quarterly, and now we have actually escalated to monthly, so that we are able to take corrective measures ahead of time before then the end of the quarter, in as far as the performance information is concerned. And we do utilize internal audit. We were not necessarily seeking the assistance of internal audit, but now we've requested that they need to review all these portfolio of evidence of performance that is being recorded by the various branches. Before I sign as an accounting officer, I need then to get that assurance that that portfolio of evidence is indeed verified by the internal audit, but also by the monitoring and evaluation, which we have also beefed up. I think the capacity there was not necessarily strong in the past. We have brought on board the head of that to be at a chief director level, and also with a few additional staff in as far as strengthening that capacity. The other area is, as an accounting officer, is holding DDGs accountable, where they have to sign off, and once you sign off, then should there be any issues of incomplete, inaccurate, unvalidated, then the DDGs will take responsibility in as far as that is concerned, when then the internal audit gives me the feedback when they've done the reviews. We also are looking into introducing site visits. The site visits will be done by the monitoring and evaluation. So you give us a report, you give us portfolio of evidence, there will then be some spot check. It won't necessarily be for all indicators in the APP, but they would then do some spot checks, working very closely with internal audit, so that then we then verify that indeed the information that we're given come year end, it is information that is verifiable. The second part on the performance in the next slide is around an area where our chemicals and waste management branch could not achieve the target that was set for waste diversion, mainly on paper and packaging waste. And what we are highlighting here is that measures have been put in place. And we first have put measures in place to deal with free riders in as far as the sector is concerned, where we have a system in the department, we call it SAWIS, which is the South African Waste Information System, where the various waste companies in the waste sector must register must register in the system so that we then are able to monitor them, and we are able to monitor on whether they are implementing some of the requirements in as far as the EPR regulations are concerned. We've issued warning letters in this case, where we have seen that some of those companies have not registered. And out of that, we have 192 companies that have not necessarily provided us reasons why they have not registered. And we are then, as part of our third phase, pursuing those companies through then ensuring that we institute action against them. And I think we can be in a position to provide the details as to how then that has been progressing. The second part also is around waste pickers in the second slide, slide 18, where as a department we have worked with the Department of Science and Innovation and the CSIR to develop a waste picker registration system. So basically here it has involved your PROs, which is your producer responsibility of organization, working very closely with waste pickers on a rate fees that would be used in the year 22 and also in 2023 to compensate waste pickers that do the collection for recycling. We have had delays in terms of then that system being transferred from CSIR. We had to deal with issues of intellectual property and so on, but the update is that that has now since been resolved. So the Alliance will manage this, and it will facilitate then the payment of the waste picker organization in terms of the being compensated for the waste that they are collecting to facilitate recycling in the various sectors. The other part in relation to this is that we are working with the PROs to then ensure that recyclers also report on our system in terms of the tonnages. We have identified a loophole where we have set a threshold of tonnages that are eligible to recyclers to report on SAWS. And we've realized that those that fall below this threshold, when you then, it's a number of small recyclers. When you then consolidate that, the number of tonnages are quite huge, and it does have an impact. So we are looking into how best then we can close this loophole in order to ensure that we are clear, and we also have a good quantification of the recycled tonnage in as far as the waste diversion is concerned. The next slide looks at a finding from the AG, where there was a finding on the NACI target, which is our national air quality indicator, which is set to be is set at a target of less than 1. As a department, we reported 1.14, and basically what we are highlighting here is the contributing factor and what are the interventions that we are putting in place in as far as that is concerned. One of the critical aspects which continues to be a challenge, but we are continuously implementing measures, is around our stations. And those stations where some of them are non-functional, mainly due to vandalism. And we're making reference here to those that we have already relocated to safe areas in order to improve security, mainly Sebokeng and also the Three Rivers. The other contributing factor is that some of those stations are non-functional due to load shedding, and we are then investing, and we are working very closely with SAWS here because they also have these stations which are under their responsibility, and we are working very closely with SAWS in as far as this is concerned because they are also affected by load shedding. And mainly here is to procure battery backup solutions, which we are in a process of doing so. And I know that SAWS also is looking into other options on how best can they keep those stations functional and record the actual data as required. So those are some of the interventions. So the battery storage and also installation of automatic voltage regulators that will help reduce also damage the instruments as a result of load shedding. In the next slide, here it's about the SAQUIS, which is our system or in the monitoring stations for air quality, where data recovery did not meet the standard of 75%. And it is linked to the challenges in the previous slide around load shedding, but also it is also informed by ensuring that we begin to tighten our monitoring of the sector plans, the various industry sector pollution prevention plans, and also the air quality management plans. So the department is therefore in the final stages of promulgating priority areas informed by the plans, and also these plans provide mechanism on how best then we can enforce and effectively implement quality management in the country, air quality management. The next areas which have been highlighted in the audit is around the Waste Bureau. This is in relation to the management of waste tire. The first is around some of the assets that we have in the Waste Bureau. There is a finding that some of those assets could not be verified for existence. And this, the head of the Waste Bureau is taking up very seriously together with the team. We have a new head in the Waste Bureau who is coming in to assist us to ensure that the whole value chain of managing waste tire is done efficiently, but also working together with the branch in terms of finalizing the Section 29 plan, which has gone out for consultation at the stage, towards then ensuring that we have appropriate implementers brought on board. So we also, in terms of these assets, we are addressing this through the asset management unit, which is going to do periodic inspections in the various depots which we have across the country. There is also a finding around depots where there was no pre-processing or collection of tires. And this is a challenge which we have been dealing with, mainly where our depots are either over full, beyond capacity, and also the issue of processing not being at a level at which then it will enable or it will relieve those depots from the stockpile of tires. We are in discussion as an interim measure while we look at processing, because we strongly believe that acquiring additional space for storage of the tires is not necessarily the solution. We need to be incentivizing the demand for or utilization of that waste tire through processing and other mechanisms. So that is the focus for the medium to long term. But the short term, yes, we are in discussion with Transnet. They have and DPWI for space that they are not necessarily utilizing for us to use those storage capacity in the meanwhile, while then we look into dealing with the issue of the processing capacity, which needs to be increased and even incentivized. The other aspect is around the old tires, and I think I've already highlighted this, where depots are full, and as a result, we have old tires, and it all boils down to our processing capacity, where as a department, we are now tirelessly looking into interventions around additional processing capacity. And the main issue which we also identified was that the processing capacity or the processing sector was being incentivized with a processing rate in the past, and that was stopped. So we then have instituted a study with the University of Pretoria to then just do a research around the processing sector and how best it can be incentivized. And that study has been concluded, and we are engaging National Treasury to see on whether we can resuscitate. We need to revive this, given that it will ensure that we increase the processing capacity that is required, given and ensure that the various companies and sector or the processing waste sector is incentivized to ensure sustainability. What I would like to highlight is that while we are dealing with these matters and looking at measures, there are ongoing discussions in increasing the capacity. PPC Cement, we have had discussions with them in terms of then utilizing shredded tires for cement kilns, and that discussions are at an advanced stage in as far as that is concerned. And we are in the next slide, we are highlighting that once we conclude the MOU with the PPC Cement, we then should see an increase in the number of those old tires being processed by approximately 24,000 tonnage. The other aspect is around the norms and standards. And norms and standards in terms of the manner in which we are managing our various depots, but also ensuring that they comply to bylaws in the various localities where municipalities then put in place certain bylaws to deal with issues of fire hazards and so on and so forth. We are doing audits in as far as this is concerned to ensure that our regional coordinators are adhering and we are complying to these norms and standards. And also where then there are challenges, then those regional project managers need to then come up with measures and ensure that the various depots are then brought into the line of compliance as quick as possible. The asset, I think this covers asset management. It was around barcoding. This is being addressed by the asset management unit within the CFO. Contract management was also identified, and we believe that we need to decentralize this to the regional level as opposed to leaving it to the head office. We have decentralized it to regional coordinators that they need to align with regional project managers so that then contracts are managed on an ongoing basis and does not necessarily have to wait for the head office to identify any challenges around some of the contracts that are implemented at a regional level. The last on the Waste Bureau finding was on the non-compliance, and I think here with the regulations, and basically here it's mainly around the space, the storage capacity, storage capacity which we require for these tires. But as I indicated, the storage is in a way a short term, medium to long term. There is a need then to incentivize processing so that we get rid of these tires as much as possible. And where exports can be explored, that's the options that we need to really we are looking into. And I think the head of the Waste Bureau can be in a position to expand to some of the measures that we are implementing to deal with some of these challenges that are there in the Waste Bureau. The next one is around performance information in relation to Program 5, which is B&C, where we had a target of 610,678 hectares that had to be added to conservation estate. Only 382 was achieved. And the main challenge that we had as a department in not meeting that target was as a result of the identified land still has pending land claims. So we are working closely with DALRAT to assist us in as far as this is concerned, so that we then can be in a position to develop co-management agreements with the various communities and stakeholders affected in order to deal with this challenge. And what we were highlighting there is that for us to achieve this target, we really need to look into various mechanisms. It's communal land, it's land owned by some government departments, and so on. So that is what we are implementing. However, I think the main challenge was that the identified land was still under pending land claims, and as a result, we could not then conclude the conversion. The next is on our protected areas, where we had committed to put in place improvement plans on the management of these protected areas, and the improvement plans were going to be for various management authorities. One of the critical challenge here, I think, is that the way in which our indicator was defined, we were not specific. I think that's one of the areas that the AG highlighted. We just highlighted management authorities, did not specify the number, and now we have specified. That being the case, still this was not achieved because only the improvement plan was developed for SANParks, by the end of the financial year, and it was only one management authority or at least an entity, and not looking at beyond the department and covering other various management authorities. So now we have been specific to say for now we are going to target 6 and ensure that they have proper management plans in as far as those protected areas are concerned in the various provinces. We also we have a system in place we call a MED system. So it's a management effectiveness trading tool that is used to monitor the effectiveness of our protected areas. And that system has had challenges in terms of quality of information. We are then looking into how we can close those gaps to ensure that then management authorities can be in a position to collate data, and that data is reliable. It will then enable us to come up with plans that will ensure effective management of those protected areas. The next one, Chair and members, is a finding on a system. And I think there was a question raised here by Honorable Bryant around the project management system. This is a system that was implemented as way back as 2018-19. And I think the AG had indicated that the project had not, Project Steercom had not set, and the project had been very, very slow. This is a project that was implemented by Environmental Program then, and some of the challenges that were faced in that year was that the way, COVID-19 also impacted on that. And what we have decided now is that for it to be effectively followed through to its conclusion, we have then transferred that project from EP into our IT section, which is under Corporate Management Services. And the Corporate Management Services has been tasked to then deal with this matter and ensure this project is concluded and implemented. The Project Steercom will be reconstituted and also ensure that we implement a pilot project with SANParks, so that by the time we get to a full going live and rollout of the system, we then would have tested it in one of our entities and then be in a position then to go live by March 2024. The next slide, Chair, then covers the items that have been presented by the Auditor General, where they were there were material irregularities that have identified. And the first is, I think it's actually covering 2 there. Umvoti and King Sabata Dalinjevo waste disposal project. And they have gone into details in terms of the challenges that were there. And this is one of the projects. It's a project that was implemented in 2018-19, where there would have been prepayments. And I think that was, a number of projects in environmental program, especially the legacy issues, were as a result of prepayment, where money is transferred, monitoring of whether the money does derive the value is what then became a challenge. We have changed that. We don't do prepayments. We now agree on a clear business case, a contract, and then delivery. And once delivery has happened in the various milestones, then you then have to invoice for what you have. So those are the controls, as already highlighted by the Auditor General that we have put in place moving forward across the department in as far as some of these matters are concerned. This is one of the, these two projects, I think it's the two MIs, where we've subjected to investigation. We are then in a process of getting the final. There was a draft report at the conclusion of the audit. We were to get the final report from the service provider by last week Friday. I am going to be following this one up, Chairperson, to ensure that we look into the report and then we implement consequence management and corrective measures as stipulated. The other one which has been highlighted, I think it was the one on where investigations were done. I think it's not here, but they did not reflect it in the audit report because they indicated to us that they were satisfied with the measures taken, where the employees had left. We haven't taken a further step, Chair, because I think the committee wanted to know whether beyond investigation and implementing of consequence management of the officials that are within public service, what happens to those that have left. We have not. We are going to liaise with legal around that matter and ensure that we look into the matter and see whether we would need to open a case, and I think we need to then ensure that we take that appropriate action in as far as that is concerned. However, I think in our audit, the Auditor General had indicated that the measures that we have taken they were comfortable with those measures, and the corrective action they were comfortable. The next one, which is the fourth one, is around the disposal of vehicles, and I think the concerns here, which raised by the portfolio, is that we indicated that at this point, no official has been held responsible. The department has done every aspect to ensure that they remind the service provider. It's a service provider that has actually gone against the disposal of this without getting consent of the department. We have taken action in as far as this is concerned. We have engaged the service provider, but also we are instituting legal action in order to recoup the resources that are involved in as far as this is concerned. So that covers the MIs, which and as AG indicated, these are the first MIs that we have as a department, and we are doing our utmost also as an accounting officer in ensuring that whatever recommendations that are there, we need them to be implementing those and ensure that moving forward in terms of internal controls, we align all our policy with National Treasury requirement, where we have not necessarily been aligned to national Treasury requirements. So that covers the MIs, Chair. There was an issue in the next slide around the EMI capacity constraints, and we are highlighting here that EMIs, this enforcement and compliance is a concurrent function, which also provinces and local government has a responsibility. And I think we can be in a position to respond to what we have done at a national level, but provinces and also municipalities in terms of their enforcement requirements, they can be in a position to then respond to the concerns that may be raised in relation to the concurrent function. We do have intergovernmental IGR structures that we utilize on an ongoing basis in a form of working groups, but also MINTEC and MINMEC. And we've prioritized municipal landfill site for compliance and also enforcement, because we have identified that this is an area that's problematic in terms of the poor compliance record. Also, there is a national environmental compliance and enforcement framework, which sets out a 5-year roadmap on how we need to improve collaboration in ensuring that we improve on enforcement and compliance across all spheres of government. And this has recently been approved by MINMEC, and as national, we are then working very closely through the IGR structures to ensure that we implement this framework. We do train the EMIs, and also ensure that we equip as and when they request for training in the different spheres of government. We do training, but also we train our own EMIs to ensure that they are actually up to date in as far as their role, their function, and what they need to be doing to effectively carry out their responsibilities. We internally also are looking into beefing up capacity. We are, Chairperson, realizing that there's more and more demand for enforcement. And unfortunately, with the personnel ceiling National Treasury has set, we then need to try, living within that ceiling of compensation of employees, to look into how best we can beef up. There is a need and a growing need to increase enforcement and compliance capacity on the ground in as far as environmental issues and also the NEMA implementation of NEMA is concerned. So we're looking into increasing that capacity. The next slide, Chairperson, is these are just numbers around the capacity, which we thought we were just sharing. The capacity or designated EMIs at a national level and also at a provincial level and also local government. What I want to highlight is that when you look at the local government, you will note that there is an aspect of a decrease in the number. But also, I think the challenge we have is that the way in which the MI units in the various spheres are not structured in the same way, where you find that at a local government level, they don't just carry out the enforcement and compliance function. They also are given other functions, which then at times would compromise the enforcement in as far as that is concerned. And it's an issue that needs then to be given an attention in as far as capacity is concerned. But the main issue, I think, on beefing up capacity is just around the current fiscal constraint faced by government and not necessarily wanting to increase the wage bill in as far as this is concerned. But as a national department, we're looking on how best we can deal with this challenge within our existing baseline and also the ceilings that have been set by National Treasury. So, Chairperson, I think this therefore brings to the end the presentation. We do engage on these plans because these are audit action plans. They have to be implemented on an ongoing basis, and our aim is to ensure that come year end, we would have dealt with these issues and also the risk, especially where we have an audit finding directed at the department DFFE. And obviously, with the concurrent function through your MINMEC and the IGR structures, we also stress that the various spheres need to take responsibility and prioritize some of these areas of concern as much as possible. Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Minister. I think this is the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, DG. Colleagues, can I see hands? I see the hand of Honorable Winkler. For now, and followed by Honorable Brent. I will take those hands for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to the presenter. Thank you, Acting Chair. My questions are, firstly, I know in the last Auditor General report, there were recurrent findings over a number of years. I just want to establish, have those recurrent findings now finally been sorted out and they are no longer then appearing in the latest AG report? And also, if the AG does feel that indeed the department has adequately addressed those recurrent findings and the consequence management for that. And then the next is on the EMIs and the 6% decline. We know that in this department, we have some really good legislation and that enforcement has always been, I think, the major issue. So now to witness the fact that now EMIs are on the decline, how are we going to, I think, remedy the situation when we know that this is actually a weakness in being able to ensure enforcement? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Winkler. Honorable Bryant.
Thanks very much, Acting Chairperson. Thank you firstly to Ms. Shabalala for the presentation. I do think that it is an indication of some progress that has been made in terms of the reporting to the committee over the past few years. I think there's quite a lot of detail, and it is quite a comprehensive presentation. So thank you for that. 2 points. The first one is in terms of that working on fire issue. Ms. Shabalala mentioned that legal steps are now going to be taken. If she can just advise a little bit more detail in terms of that, how far along is that process? Have any legal papers been served? Where are we currently with that? And what's the time frame and timeline? And then just in terms of the question that I asked previously to the Auditor General in terms of referring items for criminal investigation into the SAPS, what is the sort of what's the right term? What are the prerequisites when it comes to deciding which of these issues is referred on for criminal investigation? Because it does seem in some of the cases there are sometimes allusions to some form of criminal activity, but they can somehow be dealt with in-house. How and who decides, and what are the prerequisites in terms of referring an item for criminal investigation? Is it any indication of potential criminal activity, or is there a level of objectivity that is shown within the department as to which ones are referred and which ones aren't? Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Bryant. Honorable Mbatha.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation, HOD. I mean DG. You. Sorry about that. Firstly, I just want to acknowledge the department on the triple E-waste that they are at least they are complying on their asset asset management and dealing with the electronic equipment. But I want to know something. I know that you are supposed to make sure that you manage your triple E-waste until the end. But when you are, I know the AG saying that you must donate to the schools. Yes, other departments are doing that. But I want to know, does those electronic equipments, the laptops and computers, get refurbished before they are being donated to the schools? And just to make sure that the lifespan is not that short, like you are dumping to the schools. And the other issue is that once the schools, you have donated to the schools, is there any sharing of information that how should they dispose their electronic equipments so that we reduce the issue of the triple E-waste disposed in the wrong manner? And the other thing also on the issue of the weather bureau about the batteries, of which they are still contributing to the triple E-waste. I hope you have a plan, because it's one of your expertise, how you are going to deal with the disposal of those batteries, so that we minimize the triple E-waste and problems. Then when we go to the issue of the landfill site with the municipalities, I have a serious problem, because most of the landfill sites are almost full, and we don't have any more landfill sites. What is the plan of the department to assist the municipalities to make sure that the waste that is going to the landfill site is minimal, and that the lifespan of the landfill site takes enough time, and most of the waste, let me say, the waste management hierarchy is adhered to, so that we have not what we see now in South Africa, where the landfill site is just a heap with lots of plastic waste and other waste that are not supposed to be there. And where you find that you see the waste pickers picking from the contaminated waste in the landfill site, of which it's a serious health hazard, because everything there is mixed. And the other thing, what is your hello?
I am not sure whether it's me. It's me or you've got a network problem, but I think you are breaking up. Maybe it's me. I don't know. No,
I don't know
we can continue.
Okay. Oh, okay. So
I think it's you, Chair.
Oh, it's the chair. Okay, but you have heard me very well, because I have a serious problem, because if you benchmark with the other countries, their landfill sites are very flat, and the lifespan is very long. And once the landfill site it has reached its capacity, it's rehabilitated. It's being rehabilitated either to something that is conducive to the environment, either the parking lots or other things that can be utilized. But what we are seeing in South Africa, we are not going to be able to rehabilitate those landfill sites and reuse that land for something else, of which it's a serious problem. Then let me justly come to the waste pickers. We have a serious problem with the waste pickers, DG. And now let me just say in my city in Tshwane, because there's no services that is being rendered. Even if there are services that are being rendered, because they are not rendered properly, then we find out that these waste pickers, they collect from our refuse bins during the collection day. But what ends up is that they start their own smaller shacks, and that's where when they go and sort their waste from the bins, they end up polluting the same environment where they are sorting their areas. Is there a plan where these waste pickers can be given a place when they've collected their waste recyclables, and have a place where they can continue to sort their waste without polluting the environment? I will stop there. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, honorable members. DG.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the members. Chair, can I go ahead?
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, Mama, you can go ahead. Sorry for that. I have a
Thanks.
network problem.
Thanks. Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the members for their questions and issues of clarity. I will come back and respond to some of these areas. But I am going to request the DDGs just to respond, especially on waste management related matters raised by Member Mbata. And also the EMIs. I think Honorable Member Winkler also raised EMI. The CFO can then be in a position to talk to the findings. But what I can highlight, the CFO will provide details. In the past, there were qualifying matters that were there, and the CFO will then go into the various details of what actually caused those qualifications. Over years, the number of qualifications were reduced. And in the past, I think financial years, we had to even not conclude the audit within the regulated time frame, because as a department, we were really trying to ensure that we respond adequately to all the matters that the Auditor General would have raised as part of the audit process. What I can highlight is that now that we are unqualified, all those matters have then been dealt with. Because firstly, there was an issue around completeness and also accuracy. We have dealt with that matter, and I think the CFO will then highlight there's about 3 or so major challenges that caused qualification. The prepayment was also one of the issues, and that, as I indicated in the presentation, we have put in place controls, and we do not transfer funds before a service or a milestone is delivered. The other aspect, I think, so CFO is going to assist, or through yourself, Chair, responding in detail in as far as that is concerned. On the working on fire, yes, we have taken action. We work very closely with the state attorney. I think it was last week when then the state attorney came back to indicate that they've issued a letter of demand to the service provider. So that is an ongoing intervention which we are going to be monitoring very closely, given that this is affecting and impacting on the MIs, and it has to then be closely monitored and ensure that those issues of recoveries are indeed addressed. In terms of the referring of matters, the first stage, in as far as the guide that we have from National Treasury, when it's irregular or fruitless, you have to set up a determination committee. You set up a determination committee, and the determination committee must assess each and every contract that has been deemed irregular by the Auditor General, and where there hasn't been value derived. So that means that you would have paid for a service, but you have not received value from whatever service you've been paying for. You then take it to the next stage in terms of ensuring that you then investigate what would have happened. And that's where we go through investigations. And in that case, we have service providers, as I already highlighted, that then do thorough investigation of those matters. And where they find prima facie evidence for taking the case forward in as far as any criminal case, they then would highlight that in the recommendation. And I think in the past they have done that, indicating that in as far as this investigation is concerned, there's certain aspects that are of criminal nature, and as a result would advise that the department then reports to SAPS. And I think we have done that in the past. So we rely on the detailed investigation that is done by then the service provider, where then they do then have to then demonstrate that there is indeed prima facie evidence around that. And then SAPS would have to then assist us with the investigations. Can I request DDG Mamkhala to just respond to the waste management issues? And then the CFO also just to provide details in terms of those findings. But I'd already indicated we've cleared out all those findings, because if they were still there, we would still be qualified in as far as the audit is concerned. So we've managed to clean it up, but we put in progressively controls, and those controls need to be monitored very closely so that we don't slip back and find ourselves having the same matters being qualified moving into the future. Chairperson, with your permission, can I request the two colleagues to assist me? I hope.
Yes, yes, DG may assist. Yes, we'll start with DDG Mamkhala.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Just to indicate that my connectivity is a bit weak, so I'll turn off the camera. On the questions raised by Honorable Mbata, first, let me indicate that on the support to municipalities, one of the critical policy measures that we had put in place, and it's currently under implementation, it's on extended producer responsibility regulations. The first year of implementation was in 2022. It is a new policy that we are implementing, and one of the key matters that also is part of the provisions of that EPR regulations relates to infrastructure development. And the producers, they need to look into the feasibility of establishing new infrastructure. I'm raising this in response to the need to support collection points as well as sorting facilities as it relates to waste pickers, especially in urban areas. So it is an area that is currently receiving attention, because for this 2023, the producers will then have to submit their plans, feasibility. That's how we have indicated it in terms of the collection points or sorting facilities that would then be established to support waste pickers. It could also mean those that are in existence and need upgrading or refurbishment, they would then be supported. So for this part is to ensure that the fees coming from producers, which are not necessarily what is coming from the fiscus, is also leveraged into that area. And then also maybe linked to the how we support municipalities. I would also give an example of the city of Johannesburg with regard to the pressure on the landfill airspace in the city. And what we have done, we have worked with Infrastructure South Africa to ensure that we, within what we call Waste Flagship Program, which is part of the strategic infrastructure projects that we have established to ensure that there is a pipeline to support municipalities with regard to establishing infrastructure. And in this case, the infrastructure that we're referring to, it's an alternative waste treatment in line with the waste hierarchy, because yes, disposal is the last option. Most of landfill sites are that last option, but we are moving up the hierarchy. So the project is in an advanced stage, working with the infrastructure fund in terms of ensuring that there will be additional financial support for the city to then go into the next phases with regard to establishing that alternative waste treatment. On the issue raised with regard to the assets, electrical and electronic equipment, is to say, yes, we also raise awareness. It's also linked to the extended producer responsibility. I think it might be that the honorable members had noted that some of the retailers in the past weekend were providing incentives for consumers to bring in their old electrical equipment, and then they will get some voucher that they can use in lieu of new products that they would want to buy. So it's part of the extended producer responsibility to ensure that there is that incentive to take back the equipment. But in this case, there were matters that we were still discussing. CFO will talk to that in terms of because we were not refurbishing any equipment, and hence we wanted a differentiated approach in terms of considering how the department can also dispose electronic equipment. Benchmark with other countries, we have done that also when we considered the amount of fees that need to be paid, especially for whether it's electrical equipment and so on, given that even when we engage with National Treasury for them to approve some of the EPR fees that are applicable, they wanted us to engage on the best practices linked to some of the countries that have implemented EPR, and we have also worked with the OECD to get such information, also working with some of the developing countries, because we know that most of the developed have had a number of decades in terms of implementing EPR schemes. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, DDG. CFO.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson and members. Good morning to Minister and to the DG and colleagues. I also have some issues with my connection. If it's approved, can I request that I switch off my mic? Oh, sorry, the video.
Yes. Yes,
Thank
Mama,
you,
you can
Honorable. Thank you so much, Honorable Chairperson. When it comes, I think let me start on the last point that the DDG was speaking about on the disposal of the assets, meaning the laptops and the computers that were used by the department. We follow a process whereby when an asset has reached its useful life, then it becomes ready for it to be disposed, meaning it has no, there is no warrant from the dealer of the laptop itself. Then we clean it up and delete the information from the department, and therefore that asset becomes ready for it to be disposed. In the past, a person used to buy the computer that was allocated to themselves, meaning there was no need for the cleaning or taking out the information, but you take it as it is, it's out of warranty and it's redundant, but it's still, in certain instances, it's still usable. So those are the steps that we follow when it's time to dispose the laptops and the computers. Then the other question that was asked by Honorable Member regarding the qualification items, we have cleared all the areas that were raised by AG in the past. Had we not cleared them, we would have been qualified even in this financial year. In the past, we had qualifications around capital work in progress, the manner in which we are accounting for those, and also the tangible capital assets, the manner in which we are accounting for those, because we could not produce a proper report where we could split what should be capitalized and what should be treated as current expenditure. So we undertook a lengthy exercise whereby we're clear that we don't want to clean the surface, we're cleaning the root cause, meaning that we are laying the foundation even moving forward. Then on the irregular expenditure, I think the DG has responded to the area. We had a qualification on the completeness and accuracy of the register that we're using, whereby AG could not rely on the information that we are presenting, and they will go to the ground and found new areas or new non-compliant matters that ought to have been included in the register. So we have cleaned that area on irregular expenditure. Then we also had another issue on the manner in which we are accounting for the triple P, the way in which we were substantiating even the information that we were reporting on. So we have cleaned all those areas and we have put in controls in place to ensure that moving forward, when we are accounting and reporting, we use a credible, reliable information substantiated by the supporting documents as well. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson and members.
Thank you. So I see the hand of DG. Do you want to add something, DG?
Chairperson, I think there's one area where I'm requesting your permission on the situation on the EMIs, DDG Benderman, just to deal with that. I think Honorable Winkler raised how are we going to remedy that situation? Thank you, Chair.
No problem. Yeah, DG Benderman, you may take the podium.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, Honorable Members, Minister, DG, and all colleagues on line. Yes, it is a concern. It is a concern that we have raised, as DG has indicated, through the relevant structures within the department. We have noticed the decline, and it is a concern. What we have noted is that the operational budgets in the respective provinces have reduced. There are competing priorities when it comes to compliance and enforcement. The analysis that was done on the landfill sites was specifically done by the Working Group 4, which is information that we had provided to the Auditor General, looking at possible interventions in terms of how this can be, what interventions can we take. And I think DDG Musekeni has highlighted that in her response as well, in terms of where we are trying to assist in trying to get these landfill sites into compliance. The issue of interventions from a national level, we try to assist when provinces request it. But I think, as DG has indicated, we have escalating it to MINMEC so that we can look at how the priorities can be adjusted to ensure that there is sufficient capacity operationally, not just having EMIs designated, but they need operational funds in order to carry out their activities. I hope that sufficiently addresses it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, DDG. Colleagues, these are the responses. May I check if there's any follow-up questions for you? So you're all satisfied, colleagues. There are no follow-up. Oh, Honorable Mbata, I see your hand.
Thank you, Chairperson. It's what I picked up from the response from I didn't get the name after the DDG of Chemicals Waste on the issue of the electronic equipment is that they are just dumping to the schools, and the schools are not informed on how they should deal with the electronic waste. So, of which is a problem. I would request that the department looks at that, so that those electronic equipment are not disposed anyhow. Because at the end you'll find them disposed anyhow. And then the other thing on the issue of tires, I forgot about that, Chairperson. There's a lot of, but I just want to acknowledge the department on the issue of tires. It's long overdue, and I think they are doing the best on that. But there's still lots of tires that are all over, and they are not managed. How is the department going to deal with such tires? Because at the end, you find them being bent during the strikes or the boycotts, and they damage the infrastructure, especially the road, the tar, and also it has a negative impact on the air pollution, polluting the environment. So how best are they dealing with those that are still not managed under the new management of the tires? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mbata. Gigi, may you respond? The other one, it was not a question. Can you respond to the question?
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you to Honorable Mbata. I think on the comment and the advice, we are definitely going to take it up, given that we do engage basic education. We're going to engage basic education around a clear methodology and on how best then can we then enhance the issue of recycling even at the school level. So thank you for that suggestion. We are definitely going to take it up. Chair, I'm going to request Mr. Mshweshwe on the waste tire just to respond to the question that is being raised by the honorable member. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mshweshwe.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good afternoon to Minister and honourable members. With regards to the waste tire industry, the challenge has been one where traditionally the levels of collection, where we collect approximately 120,000 tons of waste tires a year, doesn't meet the full amount of waste tires generated. For the past 3 years, we have not had a contract with informal waste pickers and micro depots, but this has now been corrected through contracts through project managers in the Western Cape and Gauteng, and we're in the process of expanding that. So that will assist in the ability to collect more of the loose tires from informal settlements, township areas, and others. In terms of the broader waste collection and processing approach, we have seen a considerable uptick in the levels of waste processing. As DG has said, the overarching challenge is the inflow of waste tires per year outstrips what we process. So as I said, we collect approximately 120,000 tons of tires, but our target in the APP is approximately 30,000 tons of tires being processed. So there's a net increase in this. With the advent of increased processing as well as an export market developing, we've been able over the last 12 months to drive those processing numbers up to 56,000. And at the moment, we are working on increasing those numbers by being able to meet the full demand of both local processors and exporters. Of the export market, we only meet about 20 to 30% of capacity, and of local producers, so crummers, cement kilns, and pyrolysis plants, we meet about 80% of their requirement. So the key really in terms of making sure that tires are not in the environment or being burnt or disposed of illegally is in terms of driving processing. And as we're saying, we are on track to be able to increase those volumes quite significantly. From a waste storage perspective, I think the tires that are being referred to are not those that are in formal storage areas, but we are adding additional storage capacity, leveraging off of state-owned properties through the likes of Transnet Properties and the Department of Public Works, giving us an opportunity to speak to a single landlord over multiple sites. So with Transnet Properties, we had a short list of 25 sites throughout the country and are in lease engagements around 6 of those that could be ready within a 6-month period. And then also engaging with large processors to give them security of supply for their investment and avoid just-in-time deliveries of tires to their operations for them to extend storage capacity to us, especially the cement kiln. So we're in discussions with PPC for Piketberg in the Western Cape, for Mahikeng, for one in Lichtenburg, as well as one in Port Shepstone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mshweshwe. Colleagues, I think we have reached the end of our meeting. Let me take this opportunity, colleagues, and thank the Minister and thank the Auditor General, department led by DG, and my colleagues for this fruitful meeting and also deliberations. Thank you very much to all those who have attended the meeting, and I declare the meeting closed. Thank you much.
Recording stopped.
The meeting.
Thank you, Chair. Bye.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Acting
Thank
Chair.
you.
Bye.
Thank you, Chair. Bye.
Colleagues.
Hello, Minister.